Hi, Douglas Simonson here, coming to you from Mexico with a painting demonstration. Today I'm going to be painting Zach taking a shower. Zach modeled for me at my home here in Puerto Vallarta in 2018. At the time, I lived in a rooftop apartment that had an interior patio, and I thought that would be the perfect location to do a series of shots of Zach taking an outside shower with a garden hose. So I got a lot of great photos of that, and one in particular I was looking at recently, and I thought that's really charming and that would be fun to paint. So I decided to do a small acrylic sketch of it. And here is the image after I tweaked it in Photoshop to make it easier to paint from. And if you want to know more about how and why I do that, you can check out my video here on YouTube called Using Photoshop to Make Photos Easier to Paint From. The first thing I do before painting is to sketch the image in pencil. This usually takes between 10 and 15 minutes, depending on the complexity of the image. It doesn't have to be really detailed. I just need something that I can use as a guide for when I start to paint. Once I've got something I'm happy with, then it's time to start painting. I think this painting is a good opportunity for me to share with you some of the changes I've been making recently in the way that I mix colors as I paint. There are two basic approaches to this. Well, there are probably an infinite number, but I'm going to talk about the two that I'm familiar with. The first way is the very controlled way I've always mixed paints, and that is when I need a color, I mix it up on the palette with my palette knife. The beauty of this is then I have that color whenever I need it. The downside of this is you end up with so many piles of paint on your palette, you run out of room. Plus, it is a lot of work to individually mix every shade and value of color that you're going to need in the whole painting. The other way to approach color mixing is what I call on the fly. And this is when you squeeze out your basic colors out of the tube and just have them there on the palette, and then you mix with your brush on the palette whatever you need in the moment as you need it. The downside of this is you're constantly mixing colors, and you may not ever get that exact color and shade again. The upside is there's a lot more room for creativity and happy accidents. You give up some control, but you end up with a livelier, more interesting use of color in your painting. I've never really gone for mixing on the fly because I'm a control freak. I like to have that control, and I like to know that I have those mixes ready for me when I need them. But I've been doing a lot of small acrylic sketches lately, like one a day. And with these small paintings, I feel a lot freer to experiment. So I've been doing a lot more mixing color on the fly, and I'm starting to really like it. And I find what's happening, and you can kind of see it in this video, is I'm developing a mix of the two methods. When there's a color I'm going to need a lot of, like for instance the color of the wall in this painting, I'll mix that up with my palette knife on the palette, and then I'll have that pile of color when I need it. But for most of the other colors, I'm just mixing on the fly. I really like what happened with this painting. I like the use of color, and it's really nice not to have to pre-mix every single shade of every color. I look back now and I realize that I've often avoided certain subjects just because there were so many different colors going on in the image, and I just didn't want to have to deal with all that mixing. Now I'm starting to feel more freedom to tackle subjects like this one with all the different color and light stuff going on. And it turns out I'm pretty good at mixing on the fly, probably because I've been mixing colors for so many years. I just needed to get outside my comfort zone a bit, which is always a good idea. And here's the finished painting. I call it Zach Showering on My Patio. You can see it now on my website at douglassimonson.com. And by the way, as I said, I've been doing a lot of these small acrylic sketches lately, and I've priced them really affordably. They're mostly between $100 and $250. So you might want to check them out and get some while they're still available. That's at douglassimonson.com. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching me paint and mix colors and maybe picked up some tips. Please subscribe if you haven't already. That inspires me to do more videos. And if you got a little inspired watching me paint today, great. Put on your painting pants or whatever and go paint.